All right, so you want to sound like a Premier League expert at the pub this weekend.
I think we can help you out with that.
We're diving into Crystal Palace versus Newcastle.
Yeah, this one's got it's got more twists and turns than
Than your average relegation battle.
yeah, exactly.
I've got Crystal Palace, obviously, they're fighting relegation.
Yep.
And Newcastle looking for that consistency to make a real push towards the top of the table. You sent over some really, really good research on this. Let's break it all down.
Yeah, let's get into it.
See what we can expect from this match.
Right.
I think one of the things that really jumps out right away is Crystal Palace's defense.
Oh, yeah.
They've conceded 2 goals in each of their last 3 games.
Yeah. That's
Not exactly a recipe for success.
no, not ideal.
Yeah.
And looking at the articles, when we sort of dig a little deeper into this, it seems like it's more than just individual errors. They're struggling with transitions, leaving gaps in midfield, allowing way too many shots on target. It seems like it's a real team vulnerability.
Yeah, it seems like kind of a systemic issue.
Yeah, I would say so.
Injuries haven't helped either, have they?
Yeah, for sure. They've had some key players out. But even with a full squad, their back line has looked shaky at times this season.
Interesting.
There is a glimmer of hope for Palace fans, though.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, the articles mention that the manager is likely to get some serious financial backing in the January transfer window. So, maybe a chance to bolster that defense.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
That could be a real game changer for them. Speaking of things that could change the game, Selhurst Park.
Yeah, as their home ground.
Palaces are still searching for their second home win of the season
It's hard to believe.
out of 6. But interestingly enough, they haven't lost to Newcastle in their last 3 meetings at Selhurst Park.
Yeah, that's a head scratcher, isn't it? Like, on one hand, they're clearly struggling to turn their home ground into a fortress, only 1 win out of 6. But on the other hand, Newcastle haven't cracked the code at Selhurst Park in recent encounters.
It's so strange.
Yeah. What's particularly interesting, too, is that Palace have actually been struggling to score at home.
Really?
Yeah, 3 out of their last 4 games, they haven't found the back of the net.
So are they just relying on that really strong defensive performance when Newcastle come to town?
Well, it could be. The data suggests that, they haven't been blowing teams away offensively at home. So perhaps there's something about facing Newcastle that, shores up their defense. Or maybe Newcastle just historically struggles to adapt to the atmosphere at Selhurst Park.
Right.
Who
Yeah.
knows?
Well, and Newcastle have had some consistency issues of their own this season.
They have.
Right now, they're just inside the top half of the table, coming off a disappointing loss to West Ham.
Yep.
But the article mentions a win would put them just 2 points off second place.
Yeah, it's crazy. It really highlights the, tight race at the top of the table right now.
Oh, absolutely.
And, the manager's comments after the West Ham match kind of suggest that they might be pressing a bit too hard, trying to force the issue instead of letting the game come to them. So, this inconsistency, it could become a real problem, especially considering their history against Crystal Palace.
Well, okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Get this. No away team has scored in the last 6 matches between Palace and Newcastle.
That's a wild stat. That really adds another layer of complexity to this match. If Newcastle wants to break that curse, they're going to have to figure out how to unlock a Palace defense that seems to, stiffen specifically against them.
Right.
It's going to be interesting to see how they approach this.
And let's not forget that Newcastle have historically struggled in London.
Oh, yeah.
They've lost 6 of their last 8 league games in the capital.
Wow. Yeah, it's a trend worth noting. There could be a psychological element at play. Or maybe they just struggle to adapt to the specific challenges of playing away in London, whether it's the atmosphere or the travel, or the style of play they often encounter.
So is this another London curse in the making for Newcastle? Who knows?
We'll see.
Let's talk about some players to watch.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Ismaili Soar.
Yep.
Finally got his first goal and assist of the season for Crystal Palace.
It's about time.
And since the start of last season, he is undefeated in club games after scoring.
So that
He's a player to keep an eye on for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just the goals themselves, but the impact his confidence seems to have on the entire team.
Right.
The article suggests that when he's scoring, the whole team seems to play with more energy and belief.
Interesting.
On the Newcastle side, Harvey Barnes is another player in good form. He scored in recent matches, and notably, 2 of his last 3 goals were scored late in games, away from home.
So we're looking at these 2 players, Soar finding his scoring touch, Barnes seemingly thriving on the road. Is there a tactical matchup here that might favor one over the other? What are you thinking based on the articles?
Well, one thing that stands out to me is that when Soar scores, Palace often shifts to a more conservative approach,
Okay.
focusing on defending their lead. And that could play right into Barnes's hands because he seems to excel in those late game scenarios when opponents are sitting back. So that's definitely something to watch for.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So we've got Palace, a team with some defensive vulnerabilities, but a history of shutting down Newcastle at home. And we've got Newcastle striving for consistency, needing to overcome their London woes and that peculiar scoring drought against Palace.
It's a real clash of narratives
It is.
and a match that could really go either way. There's a lot riding on this one for both sides.
A lot riding on it for both sides, but also for our listeners who want to sound like experts at the pub this weekend. I think we've given them lots to think about. We've looked at the stats, the trends, the potential weaknesses, the strengths of each side. But as always, there's that unpredictable human element to football. Will it be Palace's desperation to climb out of the relegation zone that's the driving force? Or will it be Newcastle's desire to push towards the top of the table? I guess we'll have to watch and see.
Exactly.
All right, thanks for breaking this down with me. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anytime.
And if everyone listening, we'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.
Until then.